Shalom, back again with another video. Before I begin this video, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kudash. I want to give double honors to my elders and apostles who rule well, where I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations to you, Akim, you brothers out there laboring, pushing this word out in all truth and in sincerity, presenting your bodies as a living sacrifice. I want to say shalom to you Israelite sisters that may be listening, and also to you Israelites that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. You may look like these other nations, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the chosen seed line. Shalom to the elect, right? So I wanted to do this lesson or this video today, just speaking on, current events. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer just announced that the UK needs to prepare and be in war readiness, I believe was the statement that he made, which has got a lot of people on edge, people that believe or feel that something's going on in the background that the government's not warning the people about, and they feel that something's coming, or they can feel it, that something's coming, and it's that time. The scriptures tell us, right? So when we look in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1, it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, right? Because we're in that season. There's a season for everything. Just give you an example. There's a season, it says in verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. So when you look at it from a life standpoint, there's a season when babies are born, and there's a season when the older generation pass on or transition on. There's a time to plant. You have springtime where you plant seeds, and then there's the harvest time when you pluck up that which is planted. You pick the fruit or the vegetables or whatever you plant. It's always a season for everything. The point that I want to get into is in verse 8. So I'm just going to skip straight over to verse 8. And it says, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So there's a time to love, and then there's a time to hate. We ain't in the time of love right now. Ain't nobody loving on each other, seeing more hate than love, It's getting crazy out there in these streets, right? It says a time for war and a time for peace. We definitely ain't in the time of peace. Like, every country out there at the moment is talking about arming up and building up their armies and getting ready for war, So many things going on in the world, right? So we're definitely in that time of hate and a time of war. We're in that season. So looking at the recent news, I'm going to play a clip, actually. We'll play a clip, and we're just going to bring out a couple scriptures. I'm not going to make it a long lesson, but we'll bring it out and we'll go from there. So here's the clip. Slakia.
We are moving to war-fighting readiness, ensuring that everyone across the United Kingdom has a role to play in this effort. We are moving to war-fighting readiness, ensuring that everyone across the United Kingdom has a role to play in this effort. We are moving.
See, so that was the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying we're moving to war fighting readiness is how he put it. Like the UK will stand a chance against Russia. I mean, bit of a joke, but this is the sentiment that's being pushed in the earth today, right? So again, we're in that time of war, So this is basically part of the reason why I wanted to do this video. It's because it's not just the war of these superpowers like Russia versus Ukraine versus America versus North Korea, you know what I mean? Iran, whatever, right? It's also a time of civil war, civil unrest, right? there was another clip that I'm going to play here in just a second, and you'll see what I mean, where it talks about, you know, the UK's on the verge of a civil war. As a matter of fact, let me just play that clip now.
David Betts, he's a professor in the War Studies Department at King's College London. And he studies civil wars, as that's his academic field, which he talks about how all the conditions for civil war are present now in the UK. And not just in the UK, he said, across Western Europe. By civil war, he doesn't mean one army against another. He means sectarian or inter-ethnic conflict, bombings, atrocities, that sort of thing. He says that it could easily be set off in the UK or anywhere in Europe. And he says because of social media, if it goes off in one place, it will go off everywhere. And he says it will likely be country people against city people. And by the way, I should say, Betts said that everything the Starmer government is doing in the UK is by the book, according to British military doctrine, to spark a civil war.
And by the way, I should say, Betts said that everything the Starmer government is doing in the UK is by the book, according to British military doctrine, to spark a civil war.
So there you have it. Yeah, you have it. You know, this is what's being proclaimed, right? This is prophecy coming to pass, right? And it's only going to get worse from here. It isn't going to get better. A lot of people just like to bury their head in the sand and think, oh, it'll die down. You know, they created them nuclear missiles just for show. They're never going to use them. Like, all right, we'll see. We'll see. You know, and that's just, you know, people that have no belief, have no understanding of what's coming. You know, they say that the UK needs to be ready. Like, what, ready for what? You know, all of a sudden, you know, the politicians are all having these closed door meetings, and nobody seems to know what's going on until they're telling us, oh yeah, we need to get ready. Stock up 72 hours worth of food, you know, because you never know, something might happen, you know, like, oh, by the way, our you know, cybersecurity threats are, you know, through the roof, and yeah, Russia's sending, you know what I mean, like, they're just sending all kinds of, like, warnings, but they're not telling you exactly what the warning's for, right? So, back to the scriptures. This is in the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. There it is. Prepare war. Right off the pages. It says, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. You've got all these countries, you know, that don't really have much of a military or a military complex. They're not spending money on their agriculture. They're spending money on building up their armies, buying these weapons. Every other, you know, I ain't gonna say every other day, but every so often I'll hear a social media report saying, oh yeah, Iran's invested money in buying Russian weapons, or, you know, Taiwan is receiving weapons from America. Like, every country out there is buying up weapons because every country out there knows, or the leaders know, that something big is coming, and that big thing that's coming is World War III, civil unrest, civil war. You know, war is coming, right? It says verse 11. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down. O Yahweh, let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Yehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the nation, all the heathen round about. So that valley of decision, the Middle East. This is where they're all gonna end up, man. They're all gonna start fighting each other, and then obviously Yahushua is gonna turn up. Not before the mark of the beast or the micro C hip is implemented, and we're on the cusp of that. I was watching I watch travel videos, and I was watching a travel video today, and I think they were in Thailand, and basically the guy was going through, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Thailand's so cool. Look at what they do now." And he was at some water amusement park, and basically he was like, "Yeah, you ain't got to carry your wallet around with you. They have these armbands, and you can literally you don't even have to like go anywhere. You just go to your locker where you keep your stuff in, and you just scan it, and you can add money to the armband, and you can walk around and just with the armband and pay for stuff. Just swipe your armband and you can pay for stuff, so you ain't got to carry around your wallet with you or anything like that, and he's like, "This is so cool." And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely the MOTB, the Mark of the Beast infrastructure in place in all these countries, right? They're all on the same agenda, and that's another lesson. Lord willing, I will get into the Mark of the Beast, but again, like I said, that'll be for another lesson, right? So continuing on, right, we understand that this is where we're coming to. Verse 13, it says, "Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great." All these nations are about to be judged, right? All these nations are about to be judged. This is what's happening. The Lord is about to bring that judgment upon the earth. And all these people carrying on like the world's just going to calm down. Everybody's going to gather their heads, cooler heads prevail, and all this other stuff. No, the Lord is bringing judgment. The Spirit of the Lord is being put on these nations to act the way they're acting. It's just going to keep getting worse. So as we continue, it says in the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 1, it says, "But of the times and the seasons," see, we're in the seasons. It says, "But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you." You don't need me to tell you the season that we're coming into. You can see it for yourself. You can see it for yourself. Matter of fact, let me show you this image right there. You see that? You can see it for yourself. The season of war. That's right. It says, verse 2, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night." Because people are not paying attention. They're going to be caught off guard. They don't have any idea what's coming, and they just continue to live their lives and plan for holidays, and summer's around the corner, and doing all kinds of wickedness, not realizing that, hey, time is short. Time is short. We ain't got a lot of time left. Verse 3 says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." Like, don't be surprised if you wake up one morning and you switch on the news and all hell's breaking loose. Or you finish work, you get off work, and there's a false flag event. Don't be surprised. Like, 'cause this is the season we're in, man. You heard that man in that clip that I just played say that, we're in the time of civil war. Civil war is getting ready to erupt at any point, right? And that's just the way it is. So as we continue on, like I say, you can see that the race war is getting ready to kick off. Now I'm just going to show you like the UK, right? the tension that's growing up in the UK. Now, as far as America, I'm sure it's a lot worse. You got the Proud Boys, you got the white supremacist groups kicking off. You know what I mean? Like you got the left and the right fighting with each other. And I couldn't find any clips at this point, but I'm pretty sure that there's a material out there that you can find to see that those race tensions are heating up, just like they are here in the UK. Now, I want to play you another clip, right, of the UK, and you're going to see what I mean.
UK.
Will never ever see Sharia law instituted in this country. As my brother so eloquently said, this country is a Christian country, and it always will be. Will never ever see.
So as you can see, so as you can see, it's just building up.
All right, very fast. Woo! All right, mate.
Anyway, as you can see, the split in the people. You have a specific group, like obviously these ain't these ain't like the Proud Boys or whatever in the US. Like they're a little bit more organized, but over here this would be the equivalent, right? So you see them with their British flags and the Union Jacks and whatnot. They you heard the first clip where they were saying about Sharia law or whatever. Now you have the Muslims all doing the same, like sort of building up, their little groups. You know what I mean? Like eventually it's gonna kick off, man. It's gonna explode. Right now, what you're seeing is peaceful protests, I guess you could say, because they're not necessarily like going at it. But we saw what happened summer of last year, where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it just kicked off, and you have like damn near a race riot kicking off. Then you know what I mean? And that clip that I was saying about showing about that man that was saying that civil war's getting ready to kick off. Yeah, he was talking about race riots as well. Like, because I guarantee, if let's say for example this area here was to kick off, like there was a massive kickoff, I guarantee other areas would follow suit. It would be, like a domino effect. Like they'd all follow suit. And it just goes to show you how, when you say peace and safety, sudden destruction cometh upon them, right? So it's just getting to that point, that time now, where war is in the air, right? So it's wartime. So to bring it back to the scriptures, right? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 5. And it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood, that this shall, but it says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire, right? So the war that's coming is going to be with missiles, bombs, It says, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise. When you think of when you watch a medieval movie, there's a lot of clanking and soldiers screaming, yeah, battle cries and all that other stuff. It says, and garments rolled in blood. So when they're slinging the swords, limbs are being chopped off and all this other stuff, right? It says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Meaning it's going to be explosions and bombs and, all kinds of stuff. You see what they're doing in the land of Israel at the moment. They're bombing the Gazans, People just walking about their day-to-day lives and bombs just falling on them, you know what I mean? Burning fuel of fire. That's what it's going to be, right? In the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 12, it says, and I beheld, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. It said, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. That's them stars of heaven, is them nuclear missiles coming out of the sky. Them ICBMs coming out of the sky. They're going to look like stars falling to the earth. They're going to look like fig tree, when it's shaken of a mighty wind and the figs fall out of the tree. It's going to be like, it's just literally going to be falling everywhere, That's what them nuclear missiles going to be like, man. It's going to be crazy. And starting with the head elders and apostles and bishops and brothers out there that pushing this 100% truth. We've been telling you, we've been warning of you of this stuff. It's our duty to warn the people as the Lord has commanded us to, right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 14. It says, the second woe is past. That's referring to your World War II. It says, behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That'll be World War III. We're on the doorstep of World War III. You can see everything in the news heating up. It's boiling to that, or it's getting to that boiling point. So we're there at the door, right? Now, I'm going to leave it with this last scripture in the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 6. It says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and Yahweh have not done it? It says, surely Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, our power, the Lord our power, will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. That's why we say the Israelites, predominantly, well, mainly from Great Millstone. I'm not a part of Great Millstone, but I do strictly learn only under their doctrine. But the Great Millstone, right, are the true prophets, are the servants and the prophets. That's giving you the 100% truth, whether you hear or forbear. Whether you like what you hear or whether you don't. They're going to give it to you raw. And this is what's coming. And this is what we've been, commanded to warn you of. Right? So the secret's been revealed to the men of the Lord. We're giving you the warning. Either take heed or don't take heed. It's completely up to you. But this is coming, This is coming. So with that, I'm going to close it out here. Because like I said, I didn't want to make this a long lesson. I just wanted to sort of speak on a couple of clips that I've noticed regarding the season that we're coming into. So I pray that this was edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And with that, I'm going to close it out here. And I say, Kahalo Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai B'Shem Kakudash. And it's on to the next one. Shalom, Lord willing.